devastating as the machine gun was, large caliber guns, collectively known as artillery, were even more destructive, wreaking havoc with explosions that threw men and machinery into the air. Artillery weapons can be divided into three types. The first is a gun that shoots line of sight. The shell is fairly heavy, so the explosive power that shoots it out must be strong. Howitzers shoot at a high angle, and they generally don't shoot as far. The explosive force launching the shell is lighter. Therefore, the actual shell itself can have a thinner wall with more explosives and can do more damage. Mortars are like small howitzers that shoot up at an angle, with shells that come down almost vertically. They tend to carry considerable explosive power for their size. Even before the trenches were dug, artillery was pummeling defensive structures along the Belgian border. Belgium hoped to rely on a group of fortresses to prevent the Germans from invading. But Germany had developed massive guns, nicknamed Big Berthas, which were some of the largest caliber artillery pieces built during the war. Some of these explosive packed shells weighed over 2,000 pounds. And some of these guns were so massive that they could only be transported in pieces by rail car. Belgium's fortresses fell within an afternoon.
These big guns literally smashed those fortresses flat, which allowed the German army to go through Belgium. And no one had ever seen modern fortifications smashed up like that.
Though of smaller caliber than the Big Berthas, the most technologically innovative of all the siege mortars was the Paris gun, built to terrify Parisian civilians into surrendering. The 210-millimeter gun's 131-foot-long steel barrel could hurl shells over 10 miles high into the stratosphere, and the gun could be fired from over 75 miles away.
The French didn't know what they were being hit with. They thought they were being bombed by a Zeppelin, or a gasworks had blown up, or something like that. Then once they found out that these explosions were occurring in sort of a straight line, no, it was a gun.
More than 256 Parisians were killed in a barrage that lasted for 6 months and dropped 351 shells. But the Paris gun was too unwieldy to sustain a consistent barrage. The barrel needed constant replacement, and it was impossible to target accurately. In the end, it cost Germany manpower and resources that it couldn't spare. Trench mortars, however, were particularly effective along the front. They were essentially just a strong tube in which an explosive shell was inserted. Braced against the ground, they needed no recoil-absorbing mechanism. Mortars like the Stokes 3-inch and the Newton 6-inch threw explosive shells, gas shells, flares, or even shrapnel up into the air to drop nearly vertically and unobstructed into an enemy trench.
The key is that trench mortars were ones that were small enough to be moved into the trenches, and they had a short range, 500-800 yards, but enough to hit the trench on the other side, and there was really no defense against them. The only defense was to dig a hole and hope that they didn't drop a shell right in it.
Coordinated with machine guns, trench mortars were lethally effective. Machine gun spray could herd men into clusters. Then mortars could literally rain death down on them.